Hey everyone, welcome back to 2Dates Review. I'm Caleb.
I'm Hannah, and we are getting ready to talk about Aladdin, the live action.
Oh, we're not doing the we're doing the 90s review now.
Kind of like my hair, like a side ponytail. But yeah, so we saw it. We saw it.
A few nights ago.
Yeah, we saw it the opening night, Thursday.
So we're just a little late on.
A little late, yeah. We've been real lazy about getting stuff, about filming and posting stuff. I'll let you start.
Okay. So Aladdin is one of my favorite animated movies. I'd probably say top 3. It's up there with Lion King and probably Hercules, actually. We're probably amongst my top 3 favorite Disney animated movies. So I was really interested to see this, especially since they had been so successful in the past with Beauty and the Beast and Jungle Book. And I never saw Pete's Dragon, but she really liked it. So I was like, I had high expectations going in, which sometimes can be a bad thing. But so all in all, I thought it was okay. Like it wasn't a bad movie by any means. It didn't hit the bar quite for me as far as much as like walking out of Beauty and the Beast, and I was like, wow, I think I might like this better than the animated version of it. Whereas this one didn't hit that mark. I left and I was like, I feel like the animated movie is better than the live action. Which, I mean, I should have half expected anyway. One, because Robin Williams is irreplaceable. So,
That's true.
I feel for Will Smith because that's a hard role to play and that's a hard shoes to fill and follow up with, to the point that he almost didn't want to do it. So, with that in mind, like, expect to not walk out and be like, wow, that was even better than the animated, because that's just not going to happen. And one of the biggest aspects, like I said, is because of Robin Williams' performance in that genie role.
I mean, he made that
really,
movie.
Really made that movie. Some other aspects of it because I'll let her talk a little bit more about the genie. She had I would say, a bigger issue with it than I did. I can go ahead and at least just say that the first half of his genie performance was what was bad. The second half of his performance is the second half of the movie that he's in was actually a lot better and was salvageable. It was when he was trying to kind of mimic Robin Williams' performance. I mean, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's what was bad. Some other things that just didn't sell it for me was I'm even now after having seen it, I'm still not sold on the casting choice for Aladdin or for Jafar. I thought that Aladdin was okay. It wasn't like anything to the point that I'm like he wasn't.
Yeah.
But he didn't necessarily wow me either, and like, wow, he really made that character his own and really delivered on such a powerful performance. And Jafar, I feel like he lacked the menacing intimidation that the Jafar character had in the animated cartoon, because Jafar was creepy. And that evil laugh that he had, I feel like this actor just didn't quite live up to that. I just thought he was kind of a bland villain in this portrayal. The highlight for me was the casting of Jasmine.
Yeah, we can both agree on that. we both agree on that.
Because I thought that her performance, her singing, her acting, her story arc within the movie was some of the best elements in the entire movie. Yeah. And it was interesting to get to see a real live action view of Agrabah, and to see, because I always like seeing movies with different cultures and different structures of things, whether it's sci-fi and it's futuristic, or in this case it's over in a fictional place, but over in a different country, obviously in a different time when there is no technology, and it's I really liked seeing the culture within Agrabah and the palace and everybody and the way everybody interacts with each other. I thought that was interesting to see. And the visuals were really good.
Yeah.
The visuals
I have
were
one issue
amazing.
with a visual, but
okay. But other than that, all in all, it was, like I said, it was an okay film. You're not going to walk out hating it, but I wouldn't expect to walk out and being like, wow, that was...
I gotta see that again.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'll watch it again, like once it comes to Disney Plus or whatever they release it. But yeah, I mean, the music was good, the songs were good, the visuals for the most part were good. It just... We'll kind of dive in a little bit deeper, because so far it's almost kind of been, well, it's like spoiler free, but I mean, it's a remake of a movie,
spoilers, but yeah.
I mean, there's not much spoilers if you haven't seen the cartoon. Like, I mean, there's a little bit. They've added a little bit, but I mean... Not
enough.
But,
yeah, so the genie was by far the weakest part of this movie. See, it's funny that you went in with like a higher expectation. I went in with like super low expectations. I don't know why, because I've actually liked all of, well, Dumbo wasn't great, but I've liked all of the live actions.
I mean, I thought Dumbo was okay too.
Up to this point. So, but I don't know, I just kind of went in with like a low expectation. But Will Smith's genie was by far the worst part. Now, here's my issue. I don't necessarily blame Will Smith for that. I actually blame a lot of this movie on the writing and directing. I'm not sure that Guy Ritchie was the right choice for this. But I feel like what they did with Robin Williams is that they kind of molded the genie around his strengths. And I feel like they didn't do that with Will Smith. Like, especially like you said in the first half. The first half, he's trying to be Robin Williams' genie, and it's just you're watching it going like, what is happening? Like, Will Smith isn't somebody who does like voices and weird faces and all these kind of things, and that's what it was trying to do in the beginning, and it didn't work.
Trying to be like over the top.
And so I wish they had just kind of more.
But then as the movie progressed, he became less and less.
He became better. Yeah, there was like a middle part where I was like, okay, so this is the genie that should have been in the beginning.
Like once
he got into the palace.
Sultan.
Yeah, once they got into the palace, like Prince Ali gets into the palace, like that version of the genie is what we needed throughout the whole thing. The other issue I have is that I know Will Smith is a good actor. Like, I've seen him in enough things to know that he can pull off dramatic moments and things like that. I feel like we didn't get a knockout performance on the dramatic moments. I just felt like it was just lacking any depth. There was just nothing. Like, there was no connection to like the moments that were happening. Like when Aladdin is drowning and you think, he's dying, like he's just like, oh man, oh, and I was just like, I don't buy that you actually care that he's about to die. And that was actually my issue with Aladdin too, was that I felt like he lacked, some of the, I don't want to say like acting range, because I don't, I haven't seen him in it. It's the only thing I've seen him in, so I don't know. I can't really base anything off of like his body of work. But like it was that back and forth. Like I was missing like some of the dramatic things that I needed from his character. Well, and I do feel like there was a lack of chemistry between kind of Aladdin and Jasmine, and also kind of Aladdin and the genie. I didn't feel like we kind of got what you would want from the genie in Aladdin. Like, especially, if you have to compare it to the animated because it's a remake. And there was definitely a lot more like back and forth, like friend, like buddy stuff. And I feel like we didn't kind of get that enough to where you understand that he would be upset that his friend's about to die. Like, I just feel like they didn't give us enough. Jasmine, by far the best part. I actually told her before we saw it that she has, singing wise, the hardest shoes to fill, because Lea Salonga, don't know if I'm saying her name right, her voice is like freaking ridiculous. So I was just like, she has like the biggest shoes to fill singing wise, because that girl's voice is like freaking amazing. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised that her voice was also amazing. She was hitting a couple of notes in one of the songs and I was like, oh geez, okay. So, she definitely to me was the saving grace of the movie. I did see a little Easter egg to the animated, when the genie was talking about like the levels of power, and he's showing like the genie and then like the sultan, and it was the animated version sultan.
Oh, I don't think
I was like, oh, that's the animated version that was like on the chart. I agree with Jafar not being what you'd need out of a villainous Jafar. Jafar? I almost said Scar. That's the next one.
That's the next one.
Yeah, he was definitely lacking Like, I'm okay with the backstory that they gave him where he was a street rat and like all that kind of stuff, and he kind of worked his way up.
Whereas,
So like I'm okay with that. It just, he needed to be more of like a presence, and you didn't get that.
we had discussed this sometime between when we watched it and now. Whereas they tried to connect Jafar, his backstory, with Aladdin, whereas I think a more interesting approach would have been to connect it with Jasmine. Because, you know, in these movies they tend to make them longer and tend to add more context to the story, to add different elements. You know, they did it with Beauty and the Beast with, you know, the mom dying of like the plague essentially, and you know all that kind of spoilers for Beauty and the Beast. But so, you know, for this movie I was expecting, you know, not necessarily exactly that, but I was expecting them, which they did. Like they said, they made him like, you know, a street rat so he could relate more to Aladdin. But I think it would have been interesting because they kept bringing up the fact that Jasmine's mother was killed, and that's why like she wasn't allowed to leave the palace anymore. And I felt like it would have added a much more emotional depth to the situation of what was going on if they had uncovered that Jafar was the one that killed her mother. And that would have added a little bit more menacing maybe to the character, because they would have made him seem a little bit more of a real threat, because like he had, you know, and it would have made the emotion a little bit more like stronger, because then they're like, you know, it's because of you that, you know, my mother's dead, and like you're trying to take over the kingdom and you're trying to invade now my homeland, or you know,
my mother's homeland.
Yeah. And I felt like it would have added a lot more to the story if they would have gone that route and connecting his backstory with Jasmine, rather than just being able to, you know, because they didn't really play too much on the whole like, oh, I was a street rat so we can relate type thing.
Yeah,
other than just to like, you know, show Jafar stealing the lamp like about, you know, 3/4 of the way through the movie in a, you know, a similar kind of style that Aladdin would do.
Yeah.
But other than that, I felt like that didn't have the same kind of payoff as I feel like this would have had if they would have added that to the backstory.
That's one of the issues that I have, is that, you know, like you said, they tend to make these a little longer and add a lot of depth. Like they did that with Beauty and the Beast, they did it with like Jungle Book, and they did it with some of these other ones. And I don't feel like they gave you enough depth like that they could have added. You know, like Jasmine mentioned several times that her mother was killed, and then, you know, Aladdin was like, oh, my mom's, you know, she died too. And then he's like, oh, my parents are gone. Both my parents are gone. And then that was it. And I'm like, we're not gonna find out anything about it and how any of these people died.
Yep.
But I just feel like they wasted some opportunities to add some depth to the character backgrounds and their character histories. And
that the animated don't always have.
They don't usually do.
Kind of like a.
Because in the animated, I don't even know. Do we know that her mom was killed or dead?
No, I don't think they even mentioned the mom.
It's been a long time since I've seen the animated.
Yeah. But as far as I remember, they don't ever mention the mom at all. And they don't mention his parents in that first movie either. It's not until not until the third one that we find out that his dad's still alive.
Yeah, looks just like him and has a beard. But the other issue I have is that they were kind of doing things out of order from the animated, which I didn't like.
Did?
Yeah. Well, you know, with the whole revealing Jasmine being the princess to Aladdin. Jasmine wasn't the one to reveal that. It was Jafar. And then you kind of missed that payoff with that, because then Aladdin was like, oh, what? And I was just like, this is dumb. I just felt like there was, like, the one Jump Ahead song, like he was singing that with Jasmine. Like that was when like they were running. Yeah, that doesn't happen. I think that happens before.
Yeah, because that's one of the opening scenes in the animated, and that's before he met Jasmine. Was that?
So then I was like, first I was like, are they not going to have that song in here? And then it happened when they were together, and I was, oh, that's weird. So there were just some things, like timeline wise, that were different, or maybe like swapped, or like things like that I didn't like. You know, this, like he said this is one of his top 3. I see, and I break up Disney movies from like pre Little Mermaid and like post Little Mermaid. So from like the 90s on, like Aladdin and The Lion King are like the two that I have always liked. And those are the ones, especially in the 90s, like those were like my favorite ones. So I went in with low expectations, because like Aladdin is so, like that animated one is like so high up that I was like, there's no way they're going to meet that. They didn't. But so I was kind of hoping that I would still feel better about it when I came out. And I just walked out of it and was like, it was fine, but like, if that's the best thing that I can say about a movie is that it was fine, I'm like, that's not.
Hate it.
I didn't hate it. It's fine. Like, I'm glad I saw it, but like, it wasn't what I wanted it to be. And I will. So the thing that I was talking about, like the sound effect, the visual effects. I don't know if you noticed it, but during the one jump song, for a very brief, like 10 seconds, the movements of the actors were all sped up, and then it went back. I was like,
no, but I think that was on. That was on purpose.
I assume, but it was just freaking weird.
I forgot. Yeah, I did forget about that. Yeah, there was like it almost had like a Matrix-y type feel to it, where all of a sudden, everything was like sped up, and then I feel like there was even a time when they like kind of slowed it down a little bit, and like they were like I don't know why they were. Yeah, it was like they were trying to like get through the song.
It was like 10, 15 seconds were all, but the song stayed the same. Like their movements all did this, and then I was like. Did everybody else just see that? It feels
like they were trying to like rush through the scene, like get him to the end point.
To the certain point,
so it's like they were trying to like, speed through like this scene and this song, and it was just I don't know. Yeah, I did notice that as well, and I was like, that was an odd directing choice.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, what was that? And I was like, I literally like looked around. I was like, nobody else. Nobody. Okay.
Now that we're talking about just like odd points in the movie, Jasmine has a new song, which I have no problem with.
Yeah, because I feel like they've done that where they add at least one new song.
Yeah, and like she had like the first half of the song was much earlier in the movie, and then she kind of like finishes the song towards the very end of the movie.
Very big dramatic moment.
Yeah, and I felt like it was a very odd one. I feel like it was very odd in the placement of it with what was happening. Because like they were like Jafar had all the power. He was now the most powerful sorcerer.
He was the most powerful sorcerer.
And like they were leading her away out of the room, and like all of a sudden like everybody all of a sudden like everybody like freezes, and then like everybody starts
poofing.
Starts like Thanosing. Like Thanos had like snapped, and everyone was like disappearing, and then she was like singing this big dramatic song, and everybody was like frozen, and she was like walking around the room, and all of a sudden she goes back, and then as she finishes the song, like everyone's back, and like it was almost as like that whole moment didn't happen. It was like she was like thinking about it, but then like it didn't actually happen. Like I don't know, it was just
it was weird.
It felt very out of place. Like the song was fine, the lyrics, the music, everything was fine. It was just I felt like it came at an odd point, and it was an odd direction point to almost make it like a dream sequence that never actually happened. So like that kind of felt like out of place to me, and I didn't like that in that particular moment.
Yeah, that was definitely. I was just like, oh okay, we're gonna do this right now. So I mean, as a whole, I will say I did like the dance sequence that they did in the middle. It's kind of like a Bollywood kind of like dance sequence. I actually kind of liked that. I liked that addition that we're kind of seeing more of like
song, or the part where they were dancing at the party.
Dancing at the party, not the Prince Ali, because that was But so yeah, I kind of liked that they added like that element to it. But I mean, other than that, I like the addition of the handmaid to Jasmine,
because she was really good.
Naseem Pedrad is, I mean, she's from SNL, so she's like naturally funny. I wish they'd given her more.
Not everybody from SNL is naturally funny.
I mean, true, but I wish that they had given her more, because like her stuff was really funny, and her stuff with Will Smith's character were good.
I felt like they gave the right amount, because if you too much of a good thing, and then it starts
I would have just liked a little bit more, because I liked her character. So I liked that she was like a welcome addition.
Yeah, I definitely liked her character, her role.
Abu still, was being awesome,
and I liked how they handled Yago.
Yeah, where he wasn't just like
He wasn't like a fully talking bird. Yeah. It wasn't like he couldn't have full on conversations, but he could say those like what a parrot would do, which are like those little like one liners that still made sense within the context, and you knew like what the parrot was thinking or what he was planning on doing. I was like, they did a really good, realistic, but still kind of half sticking to the character in the animated version, and I feel like that was the best way to tackle the parrot. I thought they did a good choice with that.
I feel like that the CGI on the genie looked
better than the trailer.
It definitely looked better than the trailer. I'm still not sure it was like where you're just like, dang, that was like that. I mean, it wasn't
Thanos level, but
it looked okay. It wasn't. It didn't kind of quite. There was only like one, or I think there's like one scene where I was like, that, I don't know, that's kind of weird. Where it kind of took me out of the scene. Most of the time it was fine. And then, the second half of the movie, he's just Will Smith. So they did kind of change the ending for the genie, in the sense that, in the animated he becomes free, but he still has his genie powers, which I'm not sure makes 100% sense in the animated version.
Maybe
But,
that's why they chose the route that they did.
you know,
Like,
I mean, I never really questioned it. I mean, and I still don't, because I like that the genie could still have powers and like.
Because then they could have
stuff.
made a really dark sequel where the genie is now drunk with power and is like, I'm unstoppable.
I mean, kind of. So like the fact that he got set free and then like
But now he's just human.
he now is just human. I was like, that was fine. Like I was.
But then they laid the breadcrumbs throughout the whole movie where he's like, it would be nice to be, just human, or and then like he was like, oh, let's walk through the whatever as humans, and then he was like, why did I say that? So like they gave like little key instances that that's what he wanted, was to be human. So then in the end, I don't know if they needed the big like, oh, we're gonna have like 2 kids, and then like cut to the ship. It's like we got where you're going with that. You didn't need to like hit us in the face with it and be like, that was that opening scene that happened after.
Like that was him.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't need it like right on the nose like that. Like that's what happened.
Yeah, because like the handmaid's like, we want 2 kids, and you're gonna tell them
stories, and I'm like, okay, like we got where, like we know what's gonna happen. We got it.
Yeah. The other thing that I wish they had when they were creating this genie, I mean, which the problem is that they didn't create this genie for Will Smith, but I wish that when they were, trying to adapt it to a live version, that not only would they have gone to his strengths, like as a comedic actor, instead of trying to redo a Robin Williams version, I wish they would have gone to his strengths as a singer, because the singing was not great. I wish that they would just let him rap, to be honest. Like, I think that would have been better, and it would have worked better. The singing parts
the 90s style of...
we could have, it would have... I think that would have worked a lot better. Because his singing wasn't great.
Not that I thought that Robin Williams was any great.
But again,
voice.
I feel like they kind of made those songs kind of around his strengths as a singer, and I wish they would have just done that with Will Smith also, which is that he's not a great singer, and just let him rap. But that role, there's just...
That's a hard role.
That's a hard role. Because we saw him in interviews where they were asking him to do the genie, and he was like, no.
I don't want to do that. I'm not touching that.
And I actually mentioned, I was like, there's really nobody else, but I said, if they wanted to do like a more like zany, goofy, like genie, kind of like Robin Williams was, if they wanted to kind of keep that same style, like then they maybe should have gone for Jim Carrey. And I know people are going to roll their eyes and be like, ugh, but here's the thing, is like Jim Carrey built his career on making faces and doing funny stories and improving and doing bits and doing that thing. And I was like, so if they wanted... he still wasn't going to live up to the Robin Williams version. Like, nobody's going to. But if they wanted to kind of do that same, like, crazy genie, like, just doing bit after bit and doing all that, I was like, maybe they should have gone that route. But if they want Will Smith, then they should have just given us a full Will Smith genie and not, like a half of an imitation, and then... Even the middle part was okay, and then there was parts at the end where I was just like, well, now I feel like we're trying to go back. Like, why not just give us a Will Smith genie? Yeah,
because like 70% of like the genie was all improvised. They were just like, just
Yeah,
just you. We're just
like,
going to record
well, it's
you.
like they have a script, and then, you know, it's like Rob Williams just like, yeah, that's cute. like
throws it. Like,
I'm
all right,
going to do my own
thing. Where I feel like, yeah, Jim Carrey could have done that. He did it as the Grinch, where Ron Howard was just like, we had a script for him, but he just kind of took the story, took the character, made it his own.
Yeah. So it's like if they wanted somebody to kind of do that kind of same style, again, it's not going to be as good as Robin Williams. But, like, that would have been the choice. So, like, I'm okay. Like,
and maybe they did ask him, and maybe Jim Carrey was like,
yeah. But, you know, it's like, if you have Will Smith, then that's fine. But then make a Will Smith genie. Don't have a Will Smith genie trying to be a Robin Williams genie.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, a lot of that to me is the writing.
Yeah,
I didn't like the writing
especially
as a whole.
those two first interactions in the cave and outside the cave. And I was just like, yeah, they're just trying so hard to make this.
Yeah, it's like if you want to have like a little nod to the Robin Williams genie, that would have been fine.
I feel like Will Smith is a little bit more of a like serious kind of, not necessarily because he can be funny, but he's more of he's not a crazy over the top,
goofy, like I'm gonna do these voices and these bits and blah blah. Yeah, like
he's more of like a sarcastic kind of like, you know.
Yeah. which they kind of did in the middle, which is where it worked. And I was like, okay, so now we're getting like a Will Smith genie.
But I think we've gone full circle on this.
Yeah, I think we have.
A couple of times over.
Yeah, I mean, true. I mean, I would say a 6. Like,
I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a
I
little,
just, you know.
There was still a lot to like. There was a lot that could have been better.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they would have done more with the songs, because what I liked about Beauty and the Beast is that even though the songs were the same, they kind of gave them like a different feel. Like, it's almost like they used a big orchestra, and it was like this big, more like classic sounding.
The Gaston song, because a lot of the lyrics in that one are stupid. Like, we're not using those lyrics.
Yeah, so like I wish they kind of would have done something, you know, obviously maintain the integrity of the songs, but kind of did a little more, because like the changes that they did make, I didn't really like that much. But I wish they could have, I don't know, maybe done more with the songs. But
here's hoping that Lion King is gonna knock.
I know. Well, so here's the thing. So after I saw that, I was like, oh crap, I'm so nervous for Lion King now. But I'm kind of not, because Jon Favreau is doing the Lion King, and he also did the Jungle Book. And
he's just done other things that I really like.
Well, I mean, you know, Iron Man, all this other stuff. But I mean, but strictly from like live actions, like the Jungle Book, you know, I think Pete's Dragon came out first, but Jungle Book is the one that kind of put the live actions like on the map.
I thought they would start with Pete's Dragon.
I mean, it was good though.
But he's handled the animals and, you know, making animated animals into realistic, because that's one of the biggest things because I haven't really got to see it from the trailers, is what are the animals going to look like talking. I feel like it's something that if the mouth isn't like, doesn't like look good or look right, I feel like it kind of pulls me out of it. I don't remember having that feeling in the Jungle Book, but it's been a long time. I only saw it once. It was a long time ago, but I feel like I would have remembered that. And so like that's one of the biggest things that I'm kind of nervous about, is like, what are realistic animals going to look like when they're trying to speak English?
But yep, I guess we will find out in a couple months. But yeah, so I was a little nervous, but I'm hoping that Jon Favreau brings it back. Anyways, let us know what you guys thought in the comments. This was kind of a long video, so if you stuck it out through the end, I don't know how you did it.
You're like the three of you.
It's like, thank you for watching the whole thing. But yeah, so let us know what you guys thought in the comments. Like, subscribe. Thank you for watching.